Where do you see opportunities? Like there's been a lot of changes, let's say first home savings account. You guys obviously work with clients, coaching them on that stuff as well. Do you want to talk about anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. FHSA is a beautiful account that was brought in by the Liberals. We won't get too political, but I think it's one of the only things they've done really well.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a pretty amazing account. So on the way in, it's like an RSP. You get $8,000 a year. You get tax deduction on that. So come tax season, if you put that in, you're going to get a tax refund. On the way out, any growth that you have is going to be tax free. So it's very similar to a TFSA. You take TFSA, RSP, combine them in one, you have your FHSA. Interesting ways you can use them. We actually had a client who had already purchased a house, and people don't really know this, but there's no minimum amount of time that you have to have the money in an FHSA. So it's even useful if you've already purchased a house and haven't closed. So what we did was we deposited $8,000 into this account, and literally the next business day we withdrew it. So what that's going to do, the money's not invested, so he's not getting any growth. But what it's going to do is he's going to get that tax deduction for the 2024 tax year. He's going to get like $3,000 back on his tax return just for making that move. And he had already bought the house, hadn't closed yet.
Yeah. It's actually amazing how many people aren't aware of this program. Like I feel like the government should be out there, parading this because this is such a powerful tool.
Totally. Well, and one of the things too, like people don't know that it's not like a TFSA. A TFSA, the second you turn 18, you start to acquire room every year. But with the FHSA, you actually need to have an account open to start acquiring that room. So I tell people, even if you don't have the money to deposit into that account and you're planning on purchasing a house in the future, open that account before the end of the year. Otherwise, you're going to lose that $8,000 contribution room you otherwise would have had.
Yeah. Yeah. Super powerful. You were also obviously working to coach people to build up savings for their down payment and stuff like that. Do you have any good strategies for us to help people get into the market? Like obviously that's a big hurdle that we face as well, is just how do people come up with a down payment?
Yeah, totally. There's a couple of different ways that I kind of coach people and help them to come up with those down payments. One is obviously, and you're going to hear every financial advisor talk about this, is automating the payments. So super important that once a month or once every 2 weeks, you automatically have money pulled out of your bank account. You treat this like any other bill, and that gets deposited into, let's say, the FHSA, or even potentially we have some first-time homebuyer RSP options. If it's automated, you're going to do it. If it's not automated, that money is likely going to get spent. So that's one way that we help clients with a little bit of discipline and saving. Another great way is if their employer offers an RSP matching program, we say, absolutely take as much advantage of that as you possibly can, because every dollar that you put in the RSP, your employer is going to match it up to a certain percentage. And the government changed the rules so we can use up to $60,000 from an RSP to purchase your first home. So while we do have to pay that back, it's still a great strategy to save, get that tax deduction when we need it, when we're coming up for that down payment.
Yeah, it's funny. I was criticizing that increase when it came out previously and saying like, how many people have this much as a first-time home buyer in RSP? And then like 2 weeks later, I had a client that had exactly the maximum amount. And I was like, all right, well, I'll put my foot in my mouth there. So,
well,
yeah.
And that's just the thing, like $60,000, and you have to pay that back. So I have to relook up the rules. I think it's now, they changed it to 4 years after you take that from the RSP. You have to pay it back. You essentially take the amount, split it up into 15 years, and that's how much you have to pay back. So $60,000 over 15 years is a huge amount for people who are, bought a house, they have these heavy mortgage payments, and, that's where their discretionary income is going, and it's going to pay back the RSP. Probably not the most efficient use. And unfortunately, what happens with the RSP is most of the time people just take it as income. So if you don't pay it back, you take it as income for that year. It's at your highest tax bracket. So you're actually paying more taxes on that than you would have otherwise. So, we used to use RSPs a little bit more, but now that we have those FHSAs, if you and your spouse are able to do that and you have a 5-year time horizon, that's $40,000 total each you can put in there plus the growth on it. So we have some serious room that we can put into the FHSA that we don't have to pay back. And then we won't have to end up with that tax burden if we don't pay it back.
Yeah, that's such a good point. It's such a powerful tool, but like we really won't see the effects of it for a couple more years. Kind of like the TFSA, it started out like, wow, this is great, but it takes a while to build up.
Totally. Well, and that's the thing with the TFSA. Like it was opened in 2009, and I have to look back with the first amount. I think it was $5,000 a year that we
5,000. Yeah.
started. Yeah. So for somebody who, in 2009, 5,000, 10,000, then the conservatives did another 10,000. So we're adding up. But many years down the road, we have a huge chunk. Like we're over $95,000 worth of room if you were over the age of 18 in 2009. So you invest in a TFSA like that, you can invest completely tax free, build a huge retirement savings, and have all that tax free income in retirement. So now it's becoming more and more important to take advantage of that account.